Stop scrolling for just a moment. I'm about to share something that will fundamentally change how you understand human behavior, specifically female psychology, and why certain patterns keep repeating in your interactions with women. But before we start, let me be absolutely clear about something. This isn't about manipulation. This isn't about exploiting vulnerabilities. This is about understanding psychological patterns that the Stoics identified thousands of years ago. Patterns that exist in all human beings, regardless of gender. The difference? Most men remain completely blind to these patterns their entire lives. They react emotionally. They take things personally. They operate from confusion instead of clarity. In the next 15 minutes, you're going to gain a level of awareness that will make interactions infinitely clearer. You'll understand why certain behaviors happen, why certain tests occur, why certain dynamics repeat. And yes, once you possess this knowledge, some women will absolutely hate that you can see through what used to work on every other man they've encountered. Let's reveal what most men never learn. Here's something nobody wants to admit openly. Everyone has psychological patterns, vulnerabilities, if you will, ways they unconsciously operate that, when understood, become entirely predictable. Men have them, women have them. The Stoics spent centuries documenting human nature, not to judge it, but to understand it clearly enough to navigate it wisely. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." What I'm about to share are observable patterns, not universal truths about every woman who ever existed, but consistent psychological tendencies that show up repeatedly across cultures, across generations, across contexts. Why does this matter? Because when you understand the pattern, you stop being manipulated by it. You stop reacting emotionally to tests. You stop taking personally what isn't personal. You start responding from a place of calm awareness instead of confused reactivity. And that shift in you, it changes everything. Seneca taught, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Most men suffer in their interactions with women because they're operating blind. They imagine complexity where there are simply patterns. They imagine personal attacks where there are simply tests. Today, that blindness ends. Let's examine these 6 weaknesses with complete honesty and zero judgment. Weakness number 1, the need for emotional reaction. Watch this pattern carefully because once you see it, you'll notice it everywhere. Women, generally speaking, not universally, have a psychological need to create emotional impact, to know that they affect you, to confirm through your reaction that they matter, that they're significant, that they have influence. This isn't conscious manipulation in most cases. It's a deeply wired psychological pattern, and it manifests in fascinating ways. She'll say something provocative just to see if you react. She'll create small dramas to observe your response. She'll test boundaries not because she actually wants to cross them, but to see if you'll hold them. She'll sometimes pick fights not because she's genuinely upset, but because conflict creates intensity, and intensity confirms connection. The weakness is this: she needs the reaction. Calm indifference unsettles her more than anger ever could. Marcus Aurelius observed, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Most men fail this test spectacularly. They give the reaction, they get defensive, angry, hurt, flustered. They prove that she has power over their emotional state. And here's the paradox: the more reactive you are, the less attracted she becomes. Because reactivity signals that you're controlled by her, not grounded in yourself. But the man who remains calm, who doesn't take the bait, who can witness the test without being moved by it, that man is rare, and rarity is valuable. Example, she says something designed to make you jealous, mentions another guy, flirts slightly with someone else in your presence, references an ex, weak response, visible jealousy, insecurity, anger, demands for explanation, strong response, calm acknowledgement without emotional charge. That's interesting, or simply no reaction at all. Continuing the conversation in a different direction. The weak response feeds the pattern. The strong response disrupts it entirely. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. She creates the stimulus. You control the response. Master that dynamic, and you've just removed her primary tool for testing and controlling your emotional state. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you grounded. And groundedness is infinitely more attractive than reactivity. Weakness number two, the validation dependency. This one is powerful because it's almost universal, and most women aren't even aware they're operating from it. Here's the pattern. Despite what culture tells us about modern independence and self sufficiency, there remains a deep psychological need for external validation, particularly from men they're attracted to. Validation of appearance, validation of choices, validation of worth, validation of desirability. Social media has amplified this to extraordinary levels, but the core pattern existed long before Instagram. The Stoics observed it in ancient Rome. Seneca wrote, "What progress, you ask, have I made? I have begun to be a friend to myself." The person who needs external validation has not yet become a friend to themselves. Their sense of worth is outsourced. And when your worth is outsourced, whoever controls the source of validation controls you. Watch how this manifests. Constant selfies and social media posting, seeking the validation hit of likes and comments. Fishing for compliments. "I look terrible today," when she clearly doesn't. Waiting for you to disagree. Excessive concern with how others perceive her. Needing to know what you think, what your friends think, what strangers think. Dramatic reactions when validation is withheld. If you don't notice her new haircut, new outfit, new achievement, the response is disproportionate to the actual issue. Here's the weakness you need to understand. The man who gives validation freely and constantly loses all leverage, the validation becomes worthless because it's guaranteed. But the man who gives validation selectively, authentically, when genuinely earned, that validation carries weight. It means something. It's valued because it's not automatic. Marcus Aurelius reflected, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others." This self abandonment creates the dependency. And when you understand the dependency, you understand the leverage. But here's the critical distinction: withholding validation to be cruel or manipulative is weakness disguised as strength. The Stoic approach is different. Give genuine validation when you genuinely feel it. Be honest in your appreciation, but refuse to participate in the validation seeking game. Refuse to be the constant source she drains dry. When she fishes for compliments, don't take the bait. When she creates drama for attention, don't feed it with reaction. When she posts for validation, don't be the guaranteed first like. Not because you're playing games, but because you recognize the pattern and refuse to enable dependency. Weakness number three, the competition instinct. This is one of the most fascinating patterns in female psychology, and it operates almost entirely unconsciously. Women are in constant, subtle competition with other women for attention, for status, for desirability, for the validation of being chosen, being preferred, being considered superior in the social hierarchy. And here's where it gets interesting in the context of relationships. When a woman perceives that you have options, that other women are interested in you, that you're desired, that you could walk away and find alternatives easily, her competitive instinct activates. You become more valuable, not because you changed, but because other women validate your value, Epictetus observed. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. But in female psychology, there's an addendum. First, observe what others value, then desire it more intensely. This is why pre-selection works. Why women are more attracted to men who are already with women. Why a wedding ring paradoxically makes a man more attractive to women who aren't his wife. Why indifference often creates more attraction than obvious interest. The weakness here is that attraction is partially socially constructed. It's not purely about you as an individual. It's about you as a valued resource in a competitive marketplace. Watch this pattern. When you're single and available, moderate interest. When you're unavailable or clearly desired by others, intense interest. When you're pursuing her, she can take or leave you. When you withdraw attention and focus elsewhere, suddenly she's invested. When she thinks she's your only option, comfort but declining attraction. When she thinks you have options, anxiety but increasing attraction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself and your way of thinking." But for many women, happiness and security are partially dependent on winning the competition, on being chosen, on being preferred over alternatives. Here's how you navigate this without being manipulative. Actually develop options. Actually build a life so full and interesting that women are naturally drawn to it. Don't fake abundance, create it. Never make any woman feel like she's your only option. Even if you're committed to her, maintain your value, your standards, your willingness to walk away if disrespected. Understand that some level of competitive anxiety keeps attraction alive. Total security often breeds complacency. This isn't about making her suffer. It's about understanding that human psychology, male and female, values what it has to work to keep. The Stoics would say, don't manipulate this pattern, but absolutely understand it so you're not blind to how it's operating. Weakness. Number 4, the security excitement paradox. This is perhaps the most frustrating pattern for men to understand music because it seems completely contradictory. Women want security, stability, reliability. A man who's present, consistent, dependable, and simultaneously they want excitement, unpredictability, challenge. A man who's slightly dangerous, slightly unknowable, slightly beyond their complete control. These desires are in direct tension with each other, and most men try to be one or the other, wondering why it never quite works. Seneca wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. But here's the pattern. When you provide too much security, you become boring. When you provide too much excitement, you become unstable. The weakness is that she wants both, often without realizing the contradiction. The man who masters this paradox understands something crucial. You must be grounded in your self-security while remaining somewhat unpredictable in your actions. Excitement. Grounded means emotionally stable, financially responsible, present when you say you'll be present, consistent in your character and values. Unpredictable means she doesn't completely control your schedule, your decisions, your emotional state. You surprise her sometimes. You have a life independent of her. You're capable of saying no. Marcus Aurelius reflected, you have power over your mind, not outside events. The secure, exciting man has power over his own mind. Security. While external events don't completely dictate his responses, excitement, unpredictability, watch how this plays out. The completely stable, predictable man. She appreciates him but isn't particularly attracted to him. He's become comfortable like furniture. The completely exciting, unpredictable man. She's intensely attracted but chronically anxious. She can't relax because she never knows where she stands. The man who balances both. He's attractive and stable simultaneously. She feels secure in his character but excited by his independence. Here's the practical application. Be reliable in your character, honest, principled, emotionally grounded. This creates security. Be somewhat unpredictable in your availability. She doesn't completely control your time and attention. This creates excitement. Be consistent in treating her well. Respect, care, consideration, security. Be inconsistent in letting her control you. Sometimes you do what she wants. Sometimes you do what you want. Excitement. The weakness you're exploiting isn't cruelty or manipulation. It's understanding that human beings, not just women, are attracted to people who are fundamentally stable, but not completely predictable. Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power. What's in your power? Being grounded while maintaining independence. Being kind while maintaining standards. Being present while maintaining mystery. Master that balance and you've solved the security excitement paradox. Weakness number 5, emotional reasoning dominance. This pattern is critical to understand and easy to mishandle if you're not aware of it. Generally speaking, women make decisions, primarily through emotional reasoning rather than logical analysis. Not exclusively, women are absolutely capable of logic and rationality. But in matters of relationships, attraction, and personal decisions, emotion tends to dominate. This creates a specific vulnerability. How she feels in the moment often becomes what she believes is true. Seneca observed, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. But for emotional reasoners, the suffering in imagination is the reality. The feeling is the fact. Example patterns. She feels anxious about something, so she concludes there must be something to be anxious about, even if objectively there isn't. She feels disconnected one evening, so she questions the entire relationship, even if yesterday everything was fine. She feels attracted to someone new, so she retroactively rewrites history to justify potential betrayal. We've been having problems for months when you've noticed no such thing. She feels criticized by something you said, so she believes you were attacking her. Music, even if your words were neutral and your intention was supportive. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. For emotional reasoners, feelings become facts. Perspective becomes truth. And this creates both chaos and opportunity." The chaos. You cannot reason someone out of an emotional state with logic. If she feels hurt, explaining why she shouldn't feel hurt doesn't help. If she feels anxious, providing evidence that everything's fine doesn't necessarily calm her. The opportunity. The man who understands emotional reasoning can navigate it without being controlled by it. Here's how. When she's in an emotional state, don't argue with the emotion. Acknowledge it without accepting the interpretation as fact. I can see you're upset, not you have no reason to be upset. Wait for the emotional wave to pass before addressing the actual issue. Trying to solve problems while she's emotionally activated is pointless. Maintain your own center. Her emotional state is hers. You can be supportive without being absorbed by it. This is crucial. Recognize that emotions change. How she feels today isn't necessarily how she'll feel tomorrow. Don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotional states. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. She experiences emotional intensity. You choose how to respond. Don't match her emotional intensity with your own reactivity. Stay grounded. The weakness here is that emotional reasoning creates volatility. Feelings shift. Today's truth becomes tomorrow's exaggeration. The strength you develop is stability amid volatility. You become the anchor, and that role is irreplaceable. Weakness number 6, the need to test boundaries. This is the pattern that confuses men most completely because it seems self-sabotaging. Why would someone test the boundaries of a person they want to be with? The answer is psychological, and once you understand it, everything makes sense. Women test boundaries not to push you away, but to confirm that the boundaries actually exist, to confirm that you're actually strong enough to maintain your standards, to confirm that you won't abandon yourself, to keep her comfortable. This is unconscious in most cases. She's not sitting there plotting tests, but the pattern repeats nonetheless. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane." Testing boundaries is how she determines if you're grounded in yourself or if you'll abandon your sanity to accommodate her moods. Watch these common tests. She becomes unreasonable about something small to see if you'll maintain your position or fold it. Or immediately, she withdraws affection or attention to see if you'll panic and chase or remain grounded. She creates unnecessary drama to observe whether you'll match her chaos or stay calm. She makes unreasonable demands to discover if you have actual standards or if you'll sacrifice anything to please her. She flirts with other men in your presence to gauge whether you're secure or desperately insecure. The weakness. She needs you to pass these tests. Failing them reduces her attraction to you, even though she's the one creating them. Paradoxically, when you fail by giving in, accommodating, abandoning your boundaries, she doesn't feel happy that she won. She feels disappointed that you weren't stronger than her temporary emotion. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. Her tests are the friction. Passing them polishes your character and her attraction simultaneously. Here's how to you pass. Maintain your boundaries calmly. When she's being unreasonable, you can acknowledge her feelings without changing your position. I understand you're upset, but this is my decision. Don't react to withdrawal with panic. If she pulls back, give her space without chasing anxiously. Let her come back when she's ready. Stay calm in the face of drama. Your groundedness in chaos is the test. Pass it by not matching her energy. Say no when no is appropriate. Men who never say no lose respect rapidly. Not because saying no is attractive, but because saying yes to everything reveals no core. Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Know who you are. Know your standards, then maintain them regardless of the test. The woman who tests boundaries isn't trying to make your life difficult. She's trying to confirm that you're actually as solid as you appear, that your strength is real, not unperformed. Pass the test not by being cruel or rigid, but by being genuinely grounded in yourself. Let's be completely clear about what we've just covered. 6 psychological patterns that appear consistently in female psychology. 1. The need for emotional reaction. She needs to know she affects you but respects you more when you're not controlled by her ability to provoke. 2. The validation dependency. External validation is craved but loses value when given too freely. 3. The competition instinct. Value increases when others recognize it. Pre-selection and options matter. 4. The security excitement paradox. She wants both stability and unpredictability and loses attraction when you're only one. 5. Emotional reasoning dominance. Feelings become facts in the moment, creating volatility you must navigate without being consumed by 6. The need to test boundaries. She unconsciously tests to confirm your strength and loses respect when you fail. Now, here's what matters most. Understanding these patterns is not permission to be manipulative. It's not license to play games. It's not justification for cruelty. The Stoics studied human nature to live wisely, not to exploit weakness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. The highest use of this knowledge is to become a better man, more grounded, more aware, less reactive, less controlled by patterns you don't understand." Yes, understanding these weaknesses gives you leverage, but leverage can be used to elevate or to destroy. The Stoic chooses elevation. Use this awareness to stay calm when tests come instead of reacting emotionally. Maintain your standards without apology or cruelty. Give genuine validation when earned, not automatically when demanded. Balance security with independence instead of being all one or the other. Navigate emotional intensity without being swept away by it. Hold boundaries firmly while remaining warm and respectful. Will some women hate that you understand these patterns? Absolutely, because you'll no longer be controlled by dynamics that worked on every other man. You'll no longer react predictably. You'll no longer abandon yourself to keep her comfortable. But here's the deeper truth. The women worth being with will respect this strength. They'll recognize it as exactly what they've been testing for all along. Seneca taught, associate with people who are likely to improve you. The woman who hates your awareness and strength isn't someone who will improve you. Let her hate it and let her go. The woman who recognizes strength and meets it with her own depth, that's who this knowledge prepares you for. Epictetus said simply, know first who you are and then adorn yourself accordingly. You are a man who understands human nature clearly, who maintains his center regardless of external pressure, who uses knowledge not to manipulate but to navigate wisely. Adorn yourself accordingly. Live from that foundation. Everything else follows.